thank you for convening this meeting. And I want to say thank you to your staff that availed themselves to allow us to ask questions. And I believe that you can now understand that every community in Jersey City has a concern about something. So I would suggest that this kind of meeting be a little more often, so that we can express some of the problems that we have in our various communities. And if we can reason from what we're hearing, the problem in the community in our city at this time is actually crime. It's a bigger problem. I know there are housing and other problems, but crime seems to be a very serious problem. And if you agree with me, I would say that unemployment relates directly to criminal activities. And I see many of our citizens, our residents, walking on the street corner throughout the day, unemployed. If you walk down on Ocean Avenue, Martin Luther King Avenue, some parts of Bergen Avenue, you will see a bunch of men who should be working somewhere out there throughout the day. Now, I don't think the remedy is to pack them up and put them away or push them somewhere. We should be concerned about getting them employed. Most of the new employment that I've heard of recently are from outside of the area. So can we concentrate on employing some of our members who are hanging around the street, more than likely will be homeless, if we leave them out there too long? That's my request. If you can just concentrate on some kind of local employment to relieve some of the tension that we have in our neighborhood.
So we talked on some of this earlier, Pastor, and some of the larger kind of crime theme and challenges and some of the things that are happening. The employment training that we have, and in particular, outside of what's happening at the hub as an office, we do a lot on the training front, but it's individual by individual. I mean, Freeholder O'Day, who's here somewhere, I mean, he spearheaded a program that we're doing in Jersey City that is forcing the unions to hire Jersey City people. The challenge on that front, and it's tremendously successful. Newark just replicated, that's right, Billy, right? The challenge on it, and we were the first to do it, the challenge is that the number of jobs, it literally is one at a time. And some of the challenges that we ultimately have is that some of those people that you reference at the corner, right, and that are involved in bad activities, they do not want to work for the $9 an hour. That's just the reality of the situation. But at the same time, they don't have the skills or training to do the $20 or $25. We have programs to train people. There's no shortage of that, absolutely, in any sense. We could give you the schools and the classes and the subsidies that we have. I mean, it's a shared responsibility of those people wanting to take the first step to get trained, ultimately. There's only so many programs we could put out there. There is no shortage of them, ultimately. Yes, hold on, Jessica, I promise, before you get into that, I'll come back to you in a second.
Okay, please.
Yes.
Good evening to all elected officials, staff, and law enforcement. I want to say two things. One was my neighbor and a couple neighbors have spoken to me that they had a prior program for the neighborhood.
I'll repeat the question for those of you in the back that can't hear it.
For the neighborhood, and they used to give out summons. Whoever used to loiter, who used to, this was a couple administrations, I don't know whoever, they was really good. And they used to enforce the park also themselves amongst the neighborhood associations. And I think that we do see a lack of that. We don't have a lot of neighborhood association community programs, groups in the area, in, different areas. Second is, can they be a mentoring program? Like in the junior and in the high school, really enforced, not religious-based. I'm sorry, and not political. I mean, just plain, like a brother situation, a big brother's little brother. I know the program that they run usually that they have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they have is usually they go through DIFIS, but well known now as DCCP, these kind of programs. And I don't think that should be it. I think it should be also based on if they're having problems in school. So maybe like yourself, you're working, you're gonna be speaking with Dr. Laus tomorrow. Maybe you could address that with her. And what are the drug problems that we're having in public schools? Because I'm seeing signs about
Chris,
meth,
Chris, go ahead.
if you
Chris is
know
the
about it.
principal. You want to introduce yourself, Chris, over here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think what Mr. Williamson said earlier was, you know, like.
Chris, you want to introduce who you are first, so not everybody knows who you are. I know you think so.
We
know, we
I've been here
know.
for a minute. But like Mr. Williamson said, he said he wanted to talk to Dr. Lyles. Like, when you talk to Dr. Lyles.
Just time out for a second. Her question was about, let me just give the background so people know. Her question in the back was about in more mentoring programs, similar to what you touched on, sir, in the back regarding young people, Big Brothers sort of program that aren't religious-based, that are mentoring-based, and then she had a question specifically regarding drugs in our schools and the issues and how prevalent. And Chris, for those of you who don't know, is a principal in one of our schools here. And, sorry, give you a promotion. The, vice principal. And what's great about Chris is that he's been involved in the community on multiple fronts and lives in the community and teaches in the community. So go ahead, Chris. I'll defer to you on this stuff.
To get back what Mr. Williamson said earlier, he said that he wanted to sit down and talk to Dr. Lyles. One of the things that should really be at the table is how do we create mentorship opportunities in all of our schools. Individuals have individualistic efforts and kind of like mentoring a group of young men, but if it's more strategic, using the blueprint that you guys have with recreation, like when you employ a lot of community people at the pools and things like that, kind of like doing the same thing, because there are informal leaders all throughout in different neighborhoods. If you could just say, well, and working with principals and getting those buildings open, kind of like having that type of partnership, and people will come to the table with proposals. There's many people with proposals, and many people who are out trying to do their own thing. I was talking to Ryan, he's doing something at 15 school. I was talking to Dwayne, he's trying to do something down at MS4 school. There's many people who are trying to do different things at different schools. And so it can be done, but when you start talking about that, you start talking about finances, you start talking about money, you start talking about building usage, who's gonna pay for security, and all the rest of that. If those logistical things can be ironed out and a true partnership can be created, you can create mentorship opportunities in almost every elementary, middle, and high school here in Jersey City for just fractions of the dollars if, you want to look into that. But mentorship can occur throughout every school inside of the district. It's just a matter of paying some people, asking people, getting those informal leaders inside of the community, and doing that. But it can be done.
If I can just speak to that point, we are doing exactly what you said. We're trying to find a strategic way in which to incorporate these mentoring programs. I don't think it's necessarily so that if you really, really have a passion for mentoring, it has to be more than just this casual conversation that we continue to have. Because that's pervasive in our community. I don't know if it's so much paying the people to do the mentoring. Everybody in here keeps saying, hey, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it. My door is going to be open for volunteers to come in and say, Kevin, listen, after school at 15, I got 2 hours. Let me come in and talk to children about academics. Let me help them with their homework. It's not enough just to give somebody a job in this city.
I'm not saying.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. I don't mean to infer that. I'm sorry if I did. We keep giving jobs without training these kids. I see the kids every summer doing menial tasks, but that's not elevating them to the level that they need to be successful citizens. So my challenge is going to be going into the schools, finding a way of giving them some meaningful instruction, etiquette training, citizenship, academics, recreation is a large component because they got to burn that energy off at some point. But I'm going to be looking for anybody that I can go out and speak to, get you involved, get everybody in here from the women to the men. Everybody's got to be involved to tackle this situation. Because the situation is gonna be pervasive if we don't all get involved.
So I want to do, as we're approaching 8:30, so we're doing an hour and a half, I want to do 2 more, but we're staying here collectively. I know some of the people here have expressed they want to talk, maybe not publicly, they have concerns, we're not going anywhere. But I just want to devote the last 20 minutes, half hour, to actually, if there's one-on-ones collectively with any of the leadership over here. So we have a couple more questions, I just want to, I'll finish with you, Dan, since you're the most vocal in the whole neighborhood. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a point that I hear, I want to talk about what I hear, and I want to talk about what I think is a step forward. What I hear is that our officials are doing a lot of things. What I hear is that we have a lot of people in the community doing a number of things. I also hear that we have perhaps a constraint on resources, and then I hear some one-offs perhaps trying to form. And what I recommend is that there are key leaders in the city that people respect, that people are going to, and looking for them to carry that torch for us. And I recommend that you meet with them and strategize what are those things on quality of life. We don't have an endless source of resources. So it makes perfect sense for us to really figure out what's important for us as a community, and then figure out how do we strategize around implementation. You cannot have these one-offs. You cannot have people, there's many people doing many things in the community. It's not effective because we're not organized. And we're asking to be organized with you, the city, and with our leaders that we've already picked out.
So that's a fair point. I am going to leave a list here or a paper here, well, I'll have it with me. If you come up and you're interested in volunteering and being a part of some of the things, an expanded conversation, just leave your contact information here and we will follow up. I will do that personally. The second component, Tara, we'll get to in a second. The second component is that if we weren't able, I see there are hands here, we'll talk one-on-one, I'm not going anywhere, but if there are additional questions that you wanted to say at another time, there are 5 more of these. We are doing these in every single ward over the next 3 weeks. So those will be posted. You could come to them, no problem. They will focus more on those respective districts wherever they are within the city geographically. But I'm happy to answer questions. And then Dan had a question. Go ahead, Dan.
Only 2.
Only 2.
And this one, this is for you, Mr. Shea. Do you have a figure, a physical, mathematical figure for full staffing of the police department of Jersey City based both on density and population? That's one. Do you guys have a figure? Go ahead.
His question was, do we have a mathematical figure that we'd like to have the police department at based on population and density? Everybody knows, tough city, population growing every day, and it expands during the daytime when everybody comes in and through here. We have a lot of challenges. Right now we're at 801 cops, probably 900 to 950. And people, by the way, people say I'm lowballing. I've researched this with everyone who has been a chief here that is still alive. A lot of them say I'm lowballing it. It should be over 1,000. We'll never get there. So we think realistically, 9 to 950 could allow us to do a lot more of what we'd like to do.
And just a small redirect on that before we go further. That figure of 950, will that be equal to or less than the maximum amount of police force that existed when Jersey City had a lower population?
Less.
Okay. So you're saying that that 950 figure will give you the effectiveness that is necessary in both of your minds for the staff of the police department?
Listen, sorry, sir. No one ever turns down police officers. If you told me I could have 1,050, I'd take them. But I'm trying to be realistic here, and we think that's what we can do.
Before we wrap up, Dan, on that point, I just want to say that the thing that, and to give credit where credit is due on Councilman Boggiano, who's been the advocate for this. I mean, we're really going down the road on the police academy. It was closed in 2010, and it was a poor decision. And we only can fill the number of slots that are allocated in other police academies. And that's essentially what we do. Every single slot possible we fill, as I touched on earlier. But there are numbers on limitations on that. The Attorney General is being helpful with us to find additional slots. I mean, it's getting to the point where they say that there are dorms in Cape May that you could have officers down there, and that is a tough thing to ultimately get to, but that's the extent that we're going to find spots ultimately. So let me just, I know there's a lot more hands here. I'm not going anywhere.
I just wanted to get to the second part. In regards to recreation. We have had kids in trailers in the schools in Jersey City in temporary trailers for the last 30 years. And they're still there, and it's a lousy situation. And when we talk about recreation, the greatest part and the greatest recreational programs for Jersey City have always happened during the spring and the summer months. Not in the inclement weather, not when it's dark outside, not in the fall and the winter. Now, what I have proposed to Shudler and to just about everybody in succession was the fact that every school should be open at least from 3 to 6, and from 7 to 10. And the biggest block that prevents that from happening in the real world, for those of you that don't know, is the unions in regards to the maintenance of those properties. Now, we have children and we have teenagers that are unemployed. There could be arrangements that would be made that would allow, and you people are the guys that are the thinkers, and you're the people that are supposed to come up with the programs. But the idea of the Department of Recreation having anything at all that's happening in Jersey City for anybody not to know about it now is ridiculous. You know, you have to get your social media act together, but then a lot of the social media and the information that's being spread out in Jersey City right now is not bad. My question has to do with this. We don't have, bottom line, enough recreational resources to service the city of Jersey City, particularly for the youth. You know, we don't have enough pools, we don't have enough indoor facilities. Where I live, I mean, we have the Armory, we have Pershing Field, and we have a couple of other places scattered around. But in the winter, we've got nothing. And that's wrong. That's all.
Okay, so why don't we finish that? That's a fair point, and we'll follow up Dr. Lau tomorrow. And I will, this is from my standpoint, collectively on some of the outreach stuff, the walking posts, the hiring, I will improve communication with the respective leadership within these communities. If you sign your name here, I will reach out as far as getting involved in some of the programs that mentioned. From my standpoint, I do want to have an expanded conversation about the curfew. I have mixed feelings about that. I'm interested in more feedback on that ultimately, and I'm not going anywhere, so I'm staying right here. We'll be here till at least 9 o'clock. So if you have additional questions or ideally locations that are problematic or challenging, let us know. And with that, I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight, and we appreciate it.